So about the two other buildings that forms a bank quarter, there is a Graver's residence. Nobody knows for sure who Graver was. He wasn't a nobleman, he wasn't an aristocrat, he had no coat of arms, nothing like that, but he had lots of money. Back at that time, at the end of 19th century, it was very popular to build such called revenue houses. Houses which gave the owner a profit. This was one of them. So how it worked? Graver built a beautiful, nice building and was giving, well, how to say, giving it to the people who had no place to live in. And of this profit he was able to hold some balls, to build another buildings, and as I told you, nobody knew where all his money came from. But why he decided to build this building at this spot? If you look behind you and you see the green building, Незалежності 12, this building was constructed in 1886 as our first casino. Nothing like Las Vegas, maybe you imagine something like that, unfortunately not. It was casino for the noblemen, and on the second floor was located a beautiful bar, and this was the spot that you could know everything from the bartender. So if you entered Stanislavov city for the first time and you wanted to know where to sell, where to buy, who knows who, or you were looking for a specific person, this was the spot where every traveler entered for the first visit in Stanislavov. He had to take steps to the second floor and to ask a bartender. Why that? The casino was private and they were holding balls a few times a month or maybe once a month. During those balls only noblemen were invited inside and plus one. So what happened back at that time? There were no Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, nothing like that, and people had to communicate somehow. So the bells were only variant to get acquainted with a nobleman and maybe a chance to have a proper husband. So all the Stanislavian girls, they were wearing the best clothes, they had the best shoes, the best jewelry, and they were just walking line A, lane B. This was the first name of our pedestrian street, line AB, because they were walking from point A to point B. By the way, line A, B, C, D, A, E, D, they were very common names for pedestrian walks in the all European cities. Why line? Because the buildings that were constructed one near another, it was called the line of the building. So the name was very common. From point A to point B, they were walking around. And when the balls were held, of course all of them were walking around here, and maybe some nobleman will notice her and take her to the ball. Plus, the windows were opening, music was all over the spot, and this was maybe the first meeting point, the first party in the Stanislavov that was held for everyone. But Graver was so ashamed because he was not a nobleman and he wanted to be a member of the casino club. Casino club told him, no, you are not a nobleman, so we won't be inviting you to our parties. So he built this building. Sometimes when the parties were held in casino, well, it was only the best day for him to hold party as well at the same time. So you can imagine what was happening. Music was over there and over here, but Graver had no appointments, nothing like that, no invitations. If you looked, well, how to say, if you had gone through the face control, you could enter the building and have a free drink and enjoy the party. I don't know how many times he held something like that, but well, we can say for now that maybe it was the first all-inclusive in Stanislaviev. And yet, after a few parties like that, he was invited to become a member of the casino club. Of course, he accepted it because it was his intention for the first time. And yet many girls still afterwards were wandering the streets because they knew that noblemen will be somewhere around the corner. Later, most of us remember that on behind you, where the wall is, where is McDonald's and the children are painted, was located a milk cafe, молочное cafe we were calling it, and it was one of the most popular places to visit during the USSR period. The best milkshakes and coffees were served over there. Because the cafe was so popular, the government decided that we need a place under open air to have a cup of coffee, and that is the picture I showed you. Because of the milk cafe, a part of contemporary Shoshkevich Street was closed and became the first pedestrian variant of the street. Well, now you can see this is the cupola you see in front of you, and the photo was taken from that point. And the length of Shoshkevich Street is approximately 100 meters. So this is one of the variants why our pedestrian part of Nezalezhnosti Street is still called 100-metrivka, 100-meter street. The one variant because of Shoshkevich Street that was closed due to milk cafe, or maybe because of 100 meters athlete runnings that were held at the beginning of the 20th century, or maybe because the part of contemporary Nezalezhnosti, at that time Radyanska Street, was also closed for the pedestrian. Maybe that part of the street gave the whole name. We cannot tell you for sure, but what we know that our contemporary pedestrian part of Nezalezhnosti Street is 480 meters, or if we consider the Vicha Square as well to the fountain, it's 520 meters long. So it's not the longest, of course, pedestrian street in the world, but hardly 100-meter street. Yet when there was a reconstruction of the pedestrian part of Radyanska Street at that time, our architectures even won a Shevchenko Prize for the plan of it. And later there was decided that it would be beautiful to plant some trees that are the same breed, and in the late 80s there was decided to plant Canadian maples all along the pedestrian street of Radyanska, and afterwards the maples also were planted approximately, or maybe even further, the railway bridge. I don't know, maybe you can tell me, I haven't been there for a long time. Tesmanetsa Street is also planted with maples. Yes? Oh, so even so far. So only in the late 80s we got the contemporary view of our pedestrian street. And now the best shops, the jewelry shop, the best restaurants, cafes, they are all located at this point. Well, because even 300 years ago that was the most crowded street of all, though it became to exist as a street in the middle 19th century, the 20s, 40s of 19th century years. So we won't be going far the pedestrian street, you all know it very well. Here we'll turn the corner and go to get acquainted with Adam Mickiewicz and with our Ukrainian plast.
Maybe we even don't need a microphone anymore. Is it okay if I don't use it? Okay. So we stopped here because first of all I wanted you to get acquainted with our plastun. Maybe we have a member of Plast among us. Yes, we do, yeah. You were active, you are now active member? Not yet, no anymore. So, but before we speak about plastuns, I'd like to tell you a story about Sokil organization, the Falcon in English. That was very active during the Polish period of our history. Because the building you see in front of you belongs to Sokil society. By the way, the street looks like this back at the beginning of the 20th century. Very nice and pretty familiar, yes? Mm-hmm. So the Sokil, the building itself has a very interesting history. Maybe some guys already told you. That was a bit later. The same square, Mickiewicz Square. You can see Adam Mickiewicz in the middle, over here, that is his monument. And the Sokil Society building and its tower is also here. It was built especially for Sokil, sports and patriotic Polish organization. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. But you know, when it was built, I heard different stories that Sokols, they especially bought an insurance and afterwards burned to the ground the building, so the money that insurance paid afterwards were used to build a cinema that we all know very, very well, our Lumiere cinema. It's a partly true, partly. You know, when the building was constructed, we still didn't use electricity to lighten it. All over the Stanislavov city were the special pipes on which the gas was transporting, the gas that was used for the lamps that were lighting the buildings back at the time. Well, the same as usual as in all Europe. And during the construction something went wrong and the pipes had a leak. And one night, thanks to God, only one member of Sokil society was inside the building at that time. We heard that something smells very bad. Went to the basement and there wasn't a time to lighten up the I forgot the word. Maybe you can help me. Fonar in English. Fonar, torch. Oh, torch. Thank you very much. So he used a small torch, and when he lightened it, the building in the basement had blown. Thanks to God, the building was completely new and concrete basement. Nothing fell apart. Only the guy was very frightened because his brows completely burned to the ground. But yet the building stood, and only after this incident Sokol Society decided to buy an insurance for the whole building. Yes, it was burning in the late 20s, if I recall correctly, it was 29 or 28. It burned a little bit, and the money that were paid by an insurance company, they were enough to restore the building and to buy a land on which contemporary Lumiere cinema is standing. But the whole cinema was built only for the society's money, not for the insurance companies. Yet still, as Sokol Society was pro-Polish, they wanted to make their newborn Polish children very patriotic. There was installed the monument you see in front of you to our Plast. I won't tell you much about Plast because you all know about them, but we are very grateful for all their work, because they were not only patriotic, Ukrainian patriotic, they were forbidden for many, many years. They were helping our children, youth, how to survive in the rural area, in the mountains, how to navigate through the forests. So not only sports organization, but maybe a survival one, something like that. Plus, many members of these organizations became part of our army, our UPA army, and not only young boys, but we are very thankful also for girls who were members of this organization. Because of them, we have many literature works, really poetry, different novels that we still can read, written by our Ukrainian authors, because during the times they were hiding everything that was written in Ukrainian somewhere in their storages, and when we became independent, all of these works were shown to the community. No, I'm telling something wrong, girls. No. So it's a bit cold. About the Plast, you all know. The bird that is holding a plastun is our Ukrainian eagle, Berkut. They are very rare birds, and they were really often used during the period of World War II, helping the guys to navigate through the forests. They're very, very clever birds. You heard about the stories, yes? How Berkut saved many lives of our soldiers. So let's go get acquainted with Adam Mickiewicz. So this is Adam Mickiewicz, the man that all our pagans really love. Originally, as you saw on the first picture, he was standing in the middle of Adam Mickiewicz Square. By the way, all this park structure, maybe, well, yes, really, probably is the only structure in the city that never changed its name. When it was 1898, the day of 100 years from the day of birth of Adam Mickiewicz, Polish poet, this park was created and named after him. You can maybe ask me, this was the period when our Stanislavia was part of Austro-Hungarian Empire. Yet Adam Mickiewicz was Polish poet, so why he appeared in Austrian city? You know that Polish, they are very national and they really love their country. And Polish people who lived in Stanislavia, they were feeling themselves, well, under pressure from Austrians. So Austrians decided to make a present for them, so that society, Polish society, would be a little bit quieter. And Adam Mickiewicz appeared here. Well, someone says that it was specially made for Polish. Some others literature I found to tell that Adam Mickiewicz was here only because in Krakow there also was a celebration dedicated to Adam Mickiewicz. By the way, this is how he looks like. And the artworks, very similar really. And in Italy, Krakow city made a reservation for the Adam Mickiewicz monument in Italy. There had to be made a beautiful monument out of Carrara marble, but something went wrong, and in Italy were made two different monuments. One of them was given to Stanislav as a present, as a gift for our city. When the monument was installed, it was made out of white marble, very beautiful, but it didn't survive. And, well, it was damaged. It survived the war, but it was damaged. And afterwards, after World War I, it was decided to make him bronze variant of Adam Mickiewicz. It was made, it stood in the middle of Mickiewicz Park, but during World War II, Germans wanted to cut Adam Mickiewicz and make an artillery, how to say, bullets out of it. There are two versions. One of them says that some Polish guys cut it before the Germans and hide it somewhere in the basement of the buildings. And the other version says that Germans really cut the monument, but the man who was taking the bronze was a Polish one. So he didn't make bullets out of the monument, and after the war the monument was given back to the city. We don't know what the version is the true one, but the monument is the oldest monument of Stanislav, Ivano-Frankivsk contemporary, but after the World War II it was installed at this point, not in the Central Valley. And here he is watching all over the spot, because up till this day many chess players are playing here at this park, many children are walking around, and I guess Mickiewicz would be pleased that he is standing at such a beautiful place. By the way, except Adam Mickiewicz, behind him you see a building that now belongs to our Philharmonic. I'd like to show you how the building originally looked. This was the first theater of the city. It looked a little bit different, yes? This was the original version.
Original version is best.
Yes. So we maybe even all the architectures of the city consider so. Our Stanislav theater was really, well, how to say, prominent and very well visited, because sometimes even from Lviv people were coming to Stanislav to listen to Solomia Krushelnitska, and that's why at the USSR period this theater was small enough to contain all the people who wanted to listen to the singers and to watch the plays. So there was built another building near Nadia Hotel, our Ivano-Frankivsk drama theater. And this building was given to our Philharmonic. But you know, during the World War One. No, I don't recall which World War One. Yes, World War One. It was destroyed during the bombing, and the construction looked like this. Well, mostly the same as you see right now. By the way, the architecture was the same guy that restored our town hall, Stanislav Prela. But when we found his sketch that was drawn by his hand, the theater looked a bit different. That was really fully constructivism, because Prela was fond of constructivism. It was such part of our history, 20s, 30s, when this type of architecture structures were the most popular and the most cheap in Egypt. So right now we have what we have, but still in 2014 our Philharmonic grew up, and there was there was built also an annex, another facility where all the rehearsals are held till this day, and inside the Philharmonic is only the concert hall and the facilities for us, for visitors, and everything else is in the annex right now. So let's go and visit another district of our city, because we've already seen the Roman Catholic Church, where mostly Polish people live. We've seen the Ukrainian part of the city. By the way, we are still wandering this part where Ukrainians mostly live. And now we will slowly go to the part of the city where Jewish live. You know, there was no rule to divide that no Catholic would be able to build his house where Armenian live. No, nothing like that. But when you know your neighbor is the same as you, I mean, I believe a political view, it's safer to live with someone that is closer to you when you're using your beliefs. So let's go and see the in front of you is the only existing synagogue in our city. Originally it was constructed like this, with 4 towers on the top of the building. And by the way, this was one of the most, how to say, poorly constructed Jewish temple. It's, by the way, called the temple, synagogue temple. And a quick statistics. At the beginning of the 20th century, 1905, we had 30,000 citizens in Ivano-Frankivsk, and approximately 12,000 of them were Jewish. So we were, well, maybe half Jewish city, and if to say the truth, every first shop that you found on a market square belonged to a Jew. Till the mid-40s, we had 38 synagogues in our city. 38. But then in one night they all were blown by the Nazi Germans. Only this one stood, because the towers that you've already seen on the picture, they were destroyed during the bombing. And Germans said that, well, there's nothing to destroy, and only because of that the synagogue still stands to our days. By the way, the synagogue itself is located on the 2nd floor, and the ground floor is used for different purposes. There's a travel agency, a shop, etc. So it's for rent. Well, it's for Jewish traditions.
Jew.
Yes, Jewish traditions. I'm very often asked how many Jews are still in our city now. Well, I cannot tell you for sure. Really, maybe you know such a statistics because we don't have something like that right now. Still at the beginning of the 20th century, you had to state your religious beliefs when you were signing for getting another passport or something like that. Now we don't have something like that, and I cannot tell you how many Jews are in Ivano-Frankivsk. Is there 100 or maybe 10,000? I really don't know. And I asked many of my colleagues, and nobody found any information about them. But they are here. They still have their holdings in the synagogues, so everything is okay in their life. I hope so. But as you know, during the World War II, they were desperate times. Many of Ukrainians helped Jews, and they are very grateful for us, really still till this day, because many Ukrainians were hiding Jews in the basements or the rooftops of their buildings. Maybe because of that, I don't know why, but when in our drama theater in 1943 was a play called Sharika, in Ukrainian Marika, in English Mary, about the girl, Hungarian, Transcarpathia Hungarian region that loved our Ukrainian situation, lights, our Ukrainian warrior. That was a bit patriotic play. I guess maybe more of you have seen it. It's still on air in our drama theater. If you hadn't visited, very nice play. But in 1943, Germans just went into the theater, and whom they were able to catch, they were all killed near the synagogue. And that's why you see the monument in front of you. The man that is tied, covered with some cloth. But this is not only the monument for those 27 people that were shot at this street. This is the monument for all the Ukrainians who fought for our independence, for all of them, because only because of such people we now have an opportunity to use Ukrainian language, not to be afraid of it, to say that I'm Greek Catholic or I am an Orthodox, Jewish, it doesn't matter, that we are free. This monument was put here because it wasn't the only one kill that was during the Nazi Germany occupation. That is the only one that we know about. And we know about it only because a guy that was using a restroom back at that time heard that Germans were shooting inside the theater, and he ran away through a small window that was in the toilet. And only because of that he hid there for several days, and afterwards told a story about such an incident. We know about it. Who knows how many more were there. But it is our history. We don't have to cry about it or something like that. We just have to be proud that now we are free and we can do whatever we want to. And do it with our mind, with our good intentions. Let's go.